At the beginning of my junior year, I enrolled in AP honors classes, joined the student council. My mom and I have always been close. She was and still is like my everything. I saw how hard my parents were working, and I saw my dad had 2 jobs. I'm like, and we still struggling? I'm gonna help out. I'm really driving all the way.
Initially, I wasn't sure how I would react to it. I did think that it's really close to my age. I am 15, about to be 16. So I thought it might have something to do with me and might help me a little bit. I think the programs and resources would help teenagers find themselves and be themselves rather than holding in pent-up anger or anything like that that would lead them to make worse choices that could just harm their future. I would recommend Evolution of a Criminal because I loved it so much and I learned so much from it.
It was an incredible movie, an incredible documentary. It shows not only the evolution, but the beginning and middle thoughts of what could have been a career criminal and how he chose to, with his family's help and support, change his life around. I think teenagers today, in many cases, try and provide for the family. And if there are not resources available to help that family, then they will take matters, much as he did, into their own hands. And so we need to make sure that we understand what youth are going through today, what stresses they have, which are many more than I'm at 56, and I don't remember having the stresses as a child that young men and young women are under today. And so having the resources available to them and being able to communicate with them is extremely important. I would certainly would love to show, if not, would be on the internet talking about Evolution of a Criminal as soon as I get home this evening, because I think it's an important movie, it's an important documentary, and a lot more people need to be here and a lot more people need to see it.
My initial thoughts were, wow. I came in thinking that this was going to be kind of like the stereotypical criminal. You know, he grew up in that lifestyle and just started off with like petty crimes, moving up maybe on to murder. But to find that he came from a 2-parent household and, you know, loving family, and it's just not at all what I expected. It's important for them to have programs to deal with stress, to keep them busy, to keep them occupied. Otherwise, they're in the streets looking for things to do, you know, idle minds. If they don't have anything to do, they're going to find something to do, and 9 times out of 10, it's not anything good that's going to come about. I would definitely recommend Evolution of a Criminal to everyone. It's a must-see for everyone.
I thought it was very well done. I thought it was a very accurate portrayal of a young person who gets caught up in poor choices that I think happens to a lot of young people, given there was some reference to sort of brain development, and I think his film did a good portrayal of how that happened to him, but the other larger environmental factors that played a role in his choices, if you could call it that. I think it was also a great expose of the criminal justice system and how insensitive it is in terms of the punishment, the large punishment that he received in relationship to his crime, and that is being placed in an adult institution when he's a child. I think it's important for young people to have avenues and people that they can talk with, adults that they can trust, probably outside the family, who can provide that support. I think people who know young people and work with them in the community have a greater chance to influence them. The great thing about the film also was the hope, because he was able to overcome the circumstances that led him to prison. And I think that that's something, particularly for our young African American males, they need to see more of, that your mistake does not define you, and that we are all so much more than the poor choices that we made. I would definitely recommend anyone to see Evolution of a Criminal. It is, I think, very informative about this individual story, but also has a great societal message beyond his particular story. And I think it's puts a human face on the whole mass incarceration issue, this film, Evolution of a Criminal. So I highly recommend it.
I think the film was very insightful, and it can serve as a learning tool for not just young people, but also for community leaders to see that there is a problem and that people need to reach back and to help the youth. It's not just these kids are bad and they're doing this. It's called, I'm an attorney, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, an astronaut. What can I do? How can I be an advocate to keep young men from feeling like this is my option? I have to actually support my family. Why isn't the community supporting families? I feel that we have to support the kids. It's not just those kids. Those are our kids. I would recommend Evolution of a Criminal, probably more so to schools, organizations, youth centers, to see kids, or for kids to see this is what could possibly happen. But I also think Darius, and like I told him, he's the exception. Most people, they don't survive it. They don't come out on the other end the way he came out. Most people are locked in the system, but I would recommend it for youth.
I was very moved by the fact that the young man was able to see past his circumstance and that he could pull himself through it and rise above it to not repeat the same type of criminal acts in the future, and that once he committed the crime, he realized the mistake he had made and was able to kind of move forward and lift himself up out of that situation. There's so many distracting things out in the neighborhood for the young men and girls also, that if they don't have the youth groups or the positive people to support them in what they, are feeling and what they're going through, then they have no way of kind of, I guess, not turning to other things such as drugs or alcohol or mischievousness. So if they have the support group of youth groups, then it could direct them in the right direction. I would recommend Evolution of a Criminal, definitely to show it to young people in the schools and in the juvenile detention centers and in churches and different youth settings. It would definitely be beneficial.
My name is Darius Clark-Monroe. I'm the director, producer, and subject of Evolution of a Criminal, and tonight we're hosting a community cinema screening of the film here in St. Louis at the Museum of History. I've had a lot of great screening experiences with this film, but tonight was remarkable. Just the exchange with the audience, the Q&A, it felt like a family, it felt like a conversation, and it felt healing and transformative, and it was just inspiring to see just so many adults who truly cared and were passionate about the future of children and the future of teens in this community and in other communities. And so I'm just hoping that everything goes beyond just a conversation, and we use the film and we start to use just some of the ideas that we came up with tonight as tools for change and as tools to be implemented in the juvenile detention centers and in the criminal justice system, and also just in high schools across the country.